What's good, Lorcana fans? It's Bruce here with Team Ohana, and I am so excited today because I am interviewing my good longtime friend Tommy Williams, who just top 16 the last Thea BC tournament for the Pack the 10K. And I am so excited for you guys to listen to this conversation. I hope you enjoy it. Let's get right into the video. Can you kind of go ahead and introduce yourself and start us off with a little bit of background on your TCG player history? I know you, but tell the audience about yourself.
Yeah, hey guys, my name is Tommy Williams. I'm a former competitive Yu-Gi-Oh player. My credentials are I have 8 YCS tops. I've never won anything, but I qualified for the points playoff 2 years in a row in 2019 and 2021. So I have a lot of TCG experience. I played a little bit of Flesh and Blood, a little bit of Light Seekers, Argent Saga, but very briefly. I played like all of those games, like one tournament, like 1 week preparation type thing. So Lurkana's like my first real like meta game.
In what ways did you prepare for a tournament of this size, especially with it being online? And how did you enter in the first place? Because I found that very funny.
Yeah, so I started playing Lurkana about 2 months ago before I signed up for Atlanta. So most of my prep has been for like set three format. So I haven't had too much experience with set four, but right as soon as I got eliminated from Atlanta, I started testing for Chicago. So it's been like all Pixelborn, testing with my Yu-Gi-Oh group, all my friends. And then the way I started playing is like really funny. So I actually didn't plan on playing the tournament. I was in Indianapolis for a Yu-Gi-Oh YCS. It was going to be my last event because I already booked the travel before I got into Lorcana. So I'm like, you know what, I'll go anyway. It's next to Chicago, so it's not really that away from me. But unfortunately, I messed up my deck list and in Yu-Gi-Oh, I don't know if anybody's familiar with Yu-Gi-Oh, but once you submit a card, you can't change it on the list. It's final. So the card I wanted to play was called Salamangreat Raging Phoenix, and the card I played was Salamangreat Pyro Phoenix. And unfortunately, this card is nowhere close to what Raging Phoenix is. So I decided it wasn't even worth my time.
Yeah, definitely.
Thankfully, I had my gaming laptop with me, so I was able to play the tournament from the hotel room. And I had some friends to support me when I was playing to keep me company. Shout out to John Paulo.
That's awesome, man. Hey, well, it worked out for you either way, right? What was your deck choice for the tournament? Just kind of talk about why you really picked out this deck.
Yeah, so well, going into the event, I think the only results we had was from the Mishi Monday, which everybody would thought was like a tier zero format. Like I think Green still got all 8 spots in the top eight. So I thought I was gonna have to play that deck. I bought all the cards, but then I saw a lot of like good players posting their decks online. Like I think Moyen got first. He's first on the leaderboard with this deck, and a bunch of other like really good streamers are playing this deck. So my friend Chris told me to give it a try, and I thought it was really strong. The Green Steel matchup is actually like I want to say like really favored right now. Where like last format it was more like 50-50, maybe even 40-60. But because the deck is way less aggressive and it's kind of like trying to just get advantage, that's fine because your deck's also getting advantage. And the longer the game goes, every turn, the more likely it is for you to win. So blue red like wants to go to the late game, and the deck is just giving you way more turns than most decks did last format. So blue red's like really strong against it.
Absolutely. Were there any specific cards or deck choices that kind of stood out to you?
Yeah, so the cards that stood out to me was Brawl and Sisu. These cards just fundamentally change the way the deck plays. Oh, and also Ice Block. They just give you so much coverage into the aggro matchups. Ice Block just it's like an item that just gives you like so much value. Like it's only one cost, and like you get to like get really favorable trades because like especially like mirror matches. Like if you both have a grandma, now their grandma's goes to 2-3, and you get to your grandma's you'll stay on the board. What else? Yeah, like Ice Block is crazy, like because you don't have to play shields or any of like the subpar items. Scuttle is a really cool card too, but I've been messing around not playing him. I think he's too like inconsistent. Because usually on two you want to play one jump, and he's a two cost, so like he's really only good in the late game to grab a dime. But in the late game, you've seen so many cards that you deck that I don't think you really need it. But it's nice that he's ankleable though. It's a good backup plan if you don't have one jump.
Absolutely. I can echo a lot of the same sentiments on Scuttles. I've had a lot of love-hate relationship with him since his release. How did you kind of approach this meta game? Were you anticipating certain decks? I know you talked a little bit about it being a tier zero format, so obviously Green Steel was in that mix, but was there anything else you were kind of worried about?
Yeah, so I knew Green Steel was going to be the deck to beat. So I made sure to like when I built the deck to have a lot of coverage for Green Steel. I think beat prep before this tournament wasn't very popular. So I'm like my Yu-Gi-Oh brain kind of said, no, this can't be right. Like that card wipes the board. Like I know like a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh things don't transfer, but like especially with, like drawing cards isn't really as good in this game as it is in Yu-Gi-Oh because you're restricted to what you can play in a turn. But like board wipes and board wipes. Like I know banishing the field can't be bad, right? So I'm like, always put that in the deck. But
Yeah, absolutely. With people cutting prep, it's just painful to see. I feel like it's absolutely like it's a diabolical card. Um, can you describe some of the key matches or moments that stood out to you in this tournament?
yeah, so I played against a lot of Green Steel. I think I played against like I want to say four of them. I only dropped one game, and I'm pretty sure I messed up. I was getting a little fatigued, especially because I didn't really sleep that night. I had to wake up to check into the YCS to get my entry packs at like 8 a.m. So that was a misplay. And then the most critical moment of the tournament for me was the last round in the bubble. I had 37 points going into the last rounds, and the math was needed 44 to top. So it turned out I had the two on my last opponent. I'm like, damn, like it's gonna be tough. Like hopefully this works out. And I got paired into Blue Steel, which at the time I thought was like a free matchup. So I got really happy and like hyped. And I did 2-0 him. But the deck Blue Steel, like, I haven't really tested set four too much before the tournament, but Blue Steel's like a really good deck. It's not free anymore. I feel like it's more of like a coin flip. But at the time I was like, oh, this is free. And I had a lot of hype. And I ended up beating him, but it could have gone both ways, I think. But
Yeah,
that was nice when I secured my spot in the top 16.
absolutely. I echo a lot of those same sentiments. In set three, it felt like, as an avid Blue Steel player myself, it felt like this matchup was unwinnable most of the time. But in set four, it is like it's much more back and forth. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a weird dynamic because you have more removal for their cards, but their cards are gonna get like much stronger because their Tamatoes are going for like 7, 8, even 10 sometimes.
right.
So like they can't deal with yours, but if they can stick one and you can't answer it, it's probably game on spot. So they also have a lot more consistency and draw power. So
Right.
it can go both ways, I feel like.
What were some of the biggest lessons you learned from this tournament?
Uh it felt very similar to like coming from Yu-Gi-Oh! The metagame online is much different than the metagame IRL. The caliber of player you play against is going to be much stronger because only people that really care about the game are going to sit behind a laptop all day and play, right? Because
Absolutely.
it's not as fun as playing with your friends at locals, interacting with people. It's much more serious. It's like just playing the game, like in its rawest form. So I expect to play against much better players. I expected to play against much more meta decks, and I turned out to be correct. The players are very good. I felt like my opponents were making like much better plays, which is it goes both ways. So like, yes, like you don't want your opponent making good plays because it's gonna be harder to beat, but you also could like kind of predict what they're gonna do if you know they're gonna make the best play. So I do I do prefer when my opponents make good plays, especially if you're testing, because I feel like I'm getting better testing. I know if my cards are actually working how they're supposed to. Because when you play like worse players, like you can get wins and think your deck's doing good, but you're only winning because your opponent's messing up. So I really played this tournament to test. So it gave me a lot of results to look at, knowing like what cards are actually working how they're supposed to.
Yeah, absolutely. Playing against that high caliber competition is always like what's best. Iron sharpens iron, right? What advice would you give other players looking to compete at a high level in this new Arcana?
Yeah, so you're not going to get better without practice. So I would just say get the reps in. If you're coming from Yu-Gi-Oh like I am, the game's a little different. So a lot of people think it's easy. I would say it's easy to learn, hard to master. Like, yeah, you're only making 1 to 2 plays a turn, which is pretty simple from an outside perspective. But when you really look at it, 1 to 2 plays a turn means if you make one mistake, like that mistake's going to cost you. If you ink the wrong card and you don't plan your turn out, you could just lose the game on the spot. You could lose if you don't mulligan correctly, like turn one. The mulligan, I feel like is like probably the most important thing in this game. a lot of people, including myself, don't know how to mulligan correctly. Before a few weeks ago, I was like mulliganing completely incorrectly. I was putting the wrong cards back. Like in this deck, especially, you have to really make sure you get to one jump. So like I would say just make sure you know how to mulligan and make sure you know all the interactions, what everybody's deck does. Just get the reps in. The more practice, the better you'll do.
Absolutely. So what are your plans for future tournaments or involvement in the Disney Lorcana community?
Yeah, so I plan on going to every challenge I can get to. Definitely in America. I have an interest in going to like Germany and France, but I'm not sure if I want to go yet. I'm gonna make that decision based on how I do Chicago, I think. But my main goal would be to like eventually win a challenge and qualify for nationals and even worlds in this game.
Excellent. Did you have any standout moments or favorite moments or highlights of the tournament? Obviously, your round 2-0 your opponent to get into top cut's got to be a good one, but did anything else stand out?
I had some downsides. Like I played a mirror match and I was meant to play a mirror against like a really strong player. It's like someone that was like top on top of the leaderboard on Pixelborn. And I don't play Pixelborn too much, so I don't really have a high ranked account. So I was excited to play like a good match with someone who's like of a high level. But unfortunately, I just bricked and I didn't really get to play. So that was like pretty unfortunate for me. But the guy ended up topping. He was a cool dude. And I think he also plays Yu-Gi-Oh too. So it was cool to see people from Yu-Gi-Oh in this game as well.
Right, absolutely. Um, Now just fun question. Do you have a favorite Lorcana card or Disney character?
Oh, man, that's hard. Well, my favorite card, like based on like card text, would probably be Hiram. I think Hiram is just crazy. Like drawing two cards in turn is like insane. Uh, but based on like lore, probably Maleficent. Like I just like dragons are sick. Like Snow White, like that's a really cool monster. I always thought the Disney villains like really sick. So
For sure. I feel that. So lastly, are there any people, family groups that you'd like to give a shout out to before we finish this up?
yeah, I just want to shout out all my Yu-Gi-Oh friends that play Lorcana. Especially that ones that got me into it, Scott, G, Jake, and my Yu-Gi-Oh friends I test with, John Paul, Chris, everyone I'm trying to get into Lorcana. I'm trying to get them into it. Everyone's a little skeptical, but I'm sure that they'll see eventually that this might be the better game, especially for the next 2 years.
Yeah, I feel you. It's definitely the wave. Everyone I talk to says that, like, on the surface, like you said, it looks very like simple and easy. But once you get to playing, there's a lot of very niche interactions and layered gameplay in this game, and that really kind of drives that competitive part of us, I think.
Yeah, I think it's really sick. Like even looking at the results, like a Magic the Gathering Hall of Famer won the first tournament. That should tell you like everything you need to know. Like this game's very serious. Like a lot of people think it's like a fun like children's game. Like it is on a casual level, but it also has that competitive side, which makes the game so sick. It's really hard to have like a casual and a competitive game. And I think like we're kind of doing that like masterfully right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I can agree with all of that. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time out to do this interview with me, Tommy. And congratulations on your top, and I hope to see you continue to run it back.
Anytime, bro. Hopefully I'll get on the channel soon.
Yes, sir. I really hope you enjoyed our first interview on the channel. If you liked it, please subscribe. All of our socials will be linked down below. We are on literally everything, and we're trying to grow this channel. We are a team based in North Carolina who's had a lot of success since the game has started, and we're really excited to welcome you to our Ohana. Peace, guys.